Hello and welcome to Lyra Nara. Have you ever heard about Dr. Linus Pauling or Dr. Irving Stone or Dr. Klenner or Dr. Cathcart? What do these doctors have in common? Well, they all contributed to break through research on one of nature's greatest gifts. What is this gift? Well, we're gonna find out in this video. But before we do that, if you enjoy this type of content where we talk about health-related subjects, please support our work by liking, sharing and subscribing. Also hit the notifications button, the little bell icon, so you don't miss out on the weekly content that appears here. I would also highly appreciate it if you consider supporting us directly by becoming a Patreon, link in the description box below, and you can also alternatively support us via a small PayPal donation. Link is also provided for your convenience in the description box below. Your support keeps this channel going and is very much appreciated. Thank you for that. And without further ado, let's learn about what this great gift of nature and what it can do for you. And some of you may have already guessed it, we are talking about vitamin C, and this is not gonna be your standard vitamin C video or presentation where we tell you all the standard stuff that you can find everywhere on the net, namely the list of foods that contain a lot of vitamin C. You can find this very easily on the net, or for example the potential side effects and interactions with other drugs and supplements, etc., etc., or the symptoms, for example, of deficiency in vitamin C, the most well-known being, of course, scurvy. You can read, this is very well known, and you find it even on your National Health Agency's homepages, the information, but you will not find the information that we're going to present to you here, the scientific research on different conditions such as cancer, cardiovascular diseases. You will not find this information anywhere else, so let's get started. Today, many of us have understood that due to the depletion of nutrients and minerals in the soil, we must supplement with vitamins, antioxidants, minerals, and amino acids. And before we start with the necessary supplements and look where to buy them and what is out there on the market, we must understand when it comes to vitamin C, this is a vitamin complex. It's not just ascorbic acid, even though many times when you go shopping you will find just pure ascorbic acid titled or labeled as vitamin C, but as you will see, it's not the same. Mother Nature has created vitamin C rich fruits, berries and plants and vegetables as sodium ascorbate or calcium ascorbate. And as you can see in the illustration here on the right, natural vitamin C has several components, including the ascorbic acid, but also tyrosinase, vitamin P, vitamin K, and vitamin J factors, as well as ascorbigen and bioflavonoid complexes. Including all of these components in a plant, vitamin C is referred to as a vitamin C complex or a whole food complex. And we don't really know all the substances that make up natural vitamin C, but the guess is that it could be 50 or even more. And the illustration also simulates a very small number of essential substances here on the right. A vitamin is a complex assembly of food catalysts, enzymes, and unknown substances which must not be altered in structure or proportion of components if it is to retain its function. And that's why your best source of vitamin C is food, vegetables and fruits, uncooked, because vitamin C gets destroyed very easily by heat and not the supplements. The general problem with the vitamin mineral supplements is that many vitamin and mineral supplements are manufactured in the laboratory synthetically with chemicals that do not come from the natural food sources. And you can read more about this in Dr. Thiel's book, Truth About Vitamins. So most of the supplements are made in a lab with the hope that they will mimic the way natural vitamins act in our bodies. Many synthetic vitamins lack the transporter substances and the cofactors, so the helpers that are associated with naturally occurring vitamins. And most of these cofactor substances are unknown currently. Synthetic vitamins are single substances that have been isolated from other supporting substances. And there are claims made by those who market the synthetic vitamins that isolated vitamins are used and recognized by the body in the same way as natural versions. But as we will see also in the course of this video, it's not really the case. The other side of the controversy is the claim that a natural vitamin comes as a complete package with other vitamins, enzymes, substances and minerals in the essential ratio that helps control the way the body recognizes, metabolizes and uses them to make what it needs. Cangialosi and Thiel presented evidence supporting the whole food complex that was discovered in 1956 by Roy Lee. And there is a real danger when it comes to synthetic vitamin C. It can even be harmful. Nearly all of the dietary supplements that you can find on the market today come from China and are manufactured, for example, from GMO corn. Synthetic vitamins and minerals are manufactured by chemically isolating a part of a vitamin and then recreating it as in a synthetic process that, of course, relies on chemical reactions. And the new isolated chemical is not bioidentical and does not have cofactor helpers. And when you take too much of any synthetic vitamin, it tends to upset the balance of the vitamin metabolism and your body can react in several ways. One of the ways that synthetic nutrients are recognized by the immune system as foreign and toxic to the body, and therefore your body will produce or will respond with a toxic reaction. Another way in which your body can react is that is trying to find the missing cofactors by pulling out or leaching the missing vitamins and minerals from other body tissues. And this robbing Peter to pay Paul compensation is suspected to also cause many vitamin supplement side effects. Synthetic supplements have an opposite effect to whole food vitamins. And here are some examples of the side effects generated by synthetic vitamin C. Ascorbic acid fed to rats did not prevent or heal scurvy. This was discovered already in 1956. Vitamin C, so the synthetic ascorbic acid, may even contribute to cancer. This was published in 2001. The American Heart Association showed a link between consumption of only 500 milligrams of synthetic vitamin C per day and a greater propensity towards thickening of the arteries. You could read about this in 2000 in the LA Times, for example. Athletes also taking 1000 milligrams of synthetic vitamin C per day showed a reduced endurance capacity from interference with antioxidant enzymes. This was published in 2008 in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Synthetic vitamin C at gram level doses can also interfere with your copper metabolism, and conversely, whole food vitamin C can significantly enhance iron uptake and metabolism even at food level amounts. Daily doses of 1000 milligrams of synthetic ascorbic acid sold as vitamin C impairs also body energy systems and has been shown to have adverse effects on the immune system. This was published, for example, in 2008, and the title was Dangers of Synthetic Vitamins. Synthetic vitamin C also has important interactions with other vitamins. Excessive intake of vitamin A, for example, is less toxic to the body when whole food vitamin C is readily available. And vitamin C is involved also in the regeneration of vitamin E, and these two vitamins appear to work together in their antioxidant effect that we're also going to discuss more in depth in the course of this video. So what is the role of vitamin C in our body? Well, as you can see from this graph, this applies to all chronic diseases. This is how they usually develop. We have the epigenetic factors, we have the environmental factors. So they create the toxicity and they trigger and create a chronic stress state. This can also be triggered by a psycho-emotional shocking event. And this will affect your limbic system, and after only a couple of days you will see also that it affects your autonomous nervous system. And after a couple of months we can observe hormonal dysregulation and adrenaline depletion, and this is where vitamin C has its very important role to play. This is in the so-called Krebs cycle. And this Krebs cycle is very dependent on concentration of vitamin C and also niacin and NAD. And we see that when this chronic stress state persists and these chronic diseases develop, therefore, there is a dysregulation in the Krebs cycle, and we have a vitamin C depletion and also niacin and NAD depletion. And because of that, we also see fermentation, tissue acidity, cellular depolarization, energy blockages, etc. So it is very important that we take care of this Krebs cycle dysregulation. So let's see how this chronic stress that results in adrenaline and vitamin C depletion, how it correlates to chronic diseases. And first, we're gonna look at the role, the evidence for the beneficial role of vitamin C in fighting cancer. It can be broken down into the following components. First, the link between chronic stress and depleted vitamin C levels within the body. And the next one, the second one, being the link between norepinephrine and adrenaline, also known as epinephrine, synthesis and release, and vitamin C usage via the dopamine beta hydroxylase, which is also known as the dopamine beta monooxygenase pathway. The third component is the link between the vitamin C depletion and cardiovascular protection during the release of stress hormones. The fourth one is the link between vitamin C depletion and increased levels of superoxide and hydrogen peroxide, which causes mitochondrial cell DNA damage. The next one is the link between the mitochondrial cell DNA damage and the cancer. And the last one is the link between cancer and the depleted levels of vitamin C, which makes you unable to synthesize hydrogen peroxide in cancer cells to induce cancer cell death. Let's look then at the scientific research on vitamin C in cancer therapy over the last 50-60 years. What did they find out? They found out that eating a diet which is rich in fruits and vegetables, which are in turn rich in vitamin C in this case, might lower your risk of many types of cancer such as breast, colon and lung cancer. However, taking oral vitamin C supplements, so the synthetic form of vitamin C that we've discussed, the ascorbic acid, doesn't appear to offer the same benefits as intravenously given vitamin C or the vitamin C that you take in naturally through those foods. In 1950s, Canadian Dr. Abraham Hoffer, who was director of research at the Regina Psychiatric Services branch in Saskatchewan, found a treatment of vitamin C and niacin while administering high doses of oral vitamin C to patients that were hospitalized with and for psychiatric disorders. And by accident, he found out that he effected a cure in a number of these psychiatric patients who had incurable cancer. Dr. Hoffer subsequently treated cancer patients in his own private practice from 1967 to 2005 using vitamin C and niacin, and his results were quite promising. He observed a life extension from 5.7 months to 100 months on average with his patients. Vitamin C can limit the formation of carcinogens such as nitrosamines in vivo. It modulates immune response and, through its antioxidant function, possibly attenuates oxidative damage that can lead to cancer. Most case control studies have found an inverse association between dietary vitamin C intake and cancers of the lung, breast, colon, rectum, stomach, oral cavity, larynx or pharynx, as well as the esophagus. Plasma concentrations of vitamin C are also lower in people with cancer than in the control groups. In a cohort of 82,234 women aged 33 to 60 from the Nurses' Health Study, we found that consumption of an average of 205 milligrams per day of vitamin C from food compared with an average of 70 milligrams per day was associated with a 63% lower risk of breast cancer among premenopausal women with a family history of breast cancer. And there were also other studies which reported significantly lower cancer risk in association with vitamin C intake of at least 80 to 110 milligrams per day, which is a range associated and very close to vitamin C tissue saturation. During the 1970s, studies by Cameron, Campbell, and Linus Pauling suggested that high-dose vitamin C has beneficial effects on quality of life as well as the survival time in patients with terminal cancer. However, some subsequent studies, including a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled clinical trial by Myrtle and colleagues at the Mayo Clinic, did not support these findings. In the Myrtle study, patients with advanced colorectal cancer who received 10 grams per day of vitamin C fared no better than those receiving the placebo. And the authors of a 2003 review assessing the effects of vitamin C in patients with advanced cancer concluded that vitamin C confers no significant survival benefit. Emerging research suggests that the route of vitamin C administration, meaning intravenously versus orally, could explain these conflicting findings. Most intervention trials, including the one conducted by Myrtle and colleagues, used only oral administration, whereas Cameron and colleagues used a combination of oral and intravenous administration. Oral administration of vitamin C, even of very large doses, can raise plasma vitamin C concentrations to a maximum of only 220 micromole per liter, whereas IV administration can produce plasma concentrations as high as 26,000 micromole per liter. Concentrations of this magnitude are selectively cytotoxic to tumor cells in vitro, as has been shown. Research also in mice suggests that pharmacologic doses of IV vitamin C might show promise in treating otherwise difficult to treat tumors. A high concentration of vitamin C may act as a pro-oxidant and generate hydrogen peroxide that has selective toxicity toward cancer cells. And based on his findings and a few case reports of patients with advanced cancers who had remarkably long survival times following the administration of high-dose IV vitamin C, some researchers support reassessment of the use of high-dose IV vitamin C as a drug to treat cancer. Vitamin C is also involved in cardiovascular diseases. Evidence from many epidemiological studies suggests that high intakes of fruits and vegetables is associated with a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. This association might be partly attributable to the antioxidant content of these foods, because oxidative damage, including oxidative modification of low-density lipoproteins, is a major cause of cardiovascular disease. In addition to its powerful antioxidant properties, vitamin C has also been shown to reduce monocyte adherence to the endothelium, improve endothelium-dependent nitric oxide production and vasodilation, and reduce vascular smooth muscle cell apoptosis, which prevents plaque instability in arteriosclerosis. A prospective study of 20,649 British adults found that those in the top quartile of baseline plasma vitamin C concentrations had a 42% lower risk of stroke than those in the bottom quartile. Another pooled analysis of 9 prospective studies that included 293,172 subjects free of coronary heart disease at baseline found that people who took more than or at least 700 milligrams per day of supplemental vitamin C had a 25% lower risk of coronary heart disease incidence than those who took no supplemental vitamin C. The authors of 2008 meta-analysis of prospective cohort studies, including 14 studies reporting on vitamin C for median follow-up of 10 years, concluded that dietary but not supplemental intake of vitamin C is inversely associated with coronary heart disease risk. Since then, researchers have published follow-up data, for example, from the Lynxian trial. This was a population nutrition intervention trial that was conducted in China. And in this trial, daily vitamin C supplements, 120 milligrams in this case, plus molybdenum, was given to the prospects for 5 to 6 years. And they found out that it significantly reduced the risk of cerebrovascular death by 8% during the 10 years of follow-up that they had after the end of the active intervention. Also, clinical trial data for vitamin C, it must be understood, that is limited by the fact that plasma and tissue concentrations of vitamin C are tightly controlled in humans. If subjects' vitamin C levels, for example, therefore were already close to saturation at study entry, supplementation would be expected to make little or no difference on measured outcomes. And this is why another reason why you see those contradicting study results, because almost none of them look at the vitamin C levels before the intervention begins. Vitamin C is also involved in infectious diseases. In a 3-arm pilot study of 2 regimes of intravenous vitamin C versus placebo in 24 critically ill patients with sepsis, there were reductions over the 4-day study period in so-called sequential organ failure assessment, or SOFA for short, in the scores, and levels of pro-inflammatory markers in patients who received vitamin C at a dose of 200 milligrams per kilogram per day, and those who received only 50 milligrams per kilogram per day. And they also compared those with patients who received just a placebo. In another randomized controlled trial in critically ill patients with sepsis-induced ARDS, the administration of IV vitamin C at 200 milligrams per kilogram per day for 4 days lowered 28-day mortality in the treatment group. The results were 29.8% mortality versus 46.3% with the IV vitamin C, so quite a difference. Coinciding with more days alive also, and more days being out of the hospital and the intensive care unit. In 1949 already, Dr. Klenner described his successful treatment of polio using vitamin C. The main value of his work is in showing that any viral disease can be successfully brought under control with vitamin C if the proper doses are used and as he also mentioned, if the treatment is commenced as early as possible. And those are of course not the only illnesses where vitamin C can help you, preferably as mentioned from natural food sources, from vegetables and from fruits uncooked, because vitamin C gets destroyed very easily by heat. We all know about vitamin C and the common cold. Actually, it doesn't prevent the common cold, but it has been shown that if you have sufficient levels of vitamin C, the common cold lasts less, so fewer days, and the symptoms are less severe, but you will not prevent it from happening. There's been also a lot of research on vitamin C and eye problems, specifically macular degeneration and cataracts. And there seems also to be a very advantageous effect of vitamin C when it comes to these eye diseases. But we will stop here. We can keep on going, talking about vitamin C for another hour or so, but I think for this video we will stop here and sum it all up. What have we learned? Vitamin C in its natural form is an essential supplement and must be present in sufficient quantity for survival, and our body cannot produce or store vitamin C, and therefore we need to take it in through our food. Synthetic vitamin C mistakenly assimilated to ascorbic acid, which, as we've discussed, is only one of the over 20 to 50 natural ingredients in the natural vitamin C, can have more harmful than beneficial effects. So careful with your supplements there. Preferably you take it in through your food. No discussion. Many studies have compared also the supplements, and we've discussed this also in the course of this presentation, and they always found out that naturally occurring vitamin C from food is much more potent than the synthetic ascorbic acid. We've also seen that vitamin C depletion is caused by adrenaline depletion, which is caused in turn by a long time chronic unbearable stress, like we already, many of us unfortunately have nowadays. So it is especially important now in this situation that we are in, that you take care of your nutrition and make it vitamin C rich. Vitamin C, as we have seen, is a very strong antioxidant. It prevents cellular DNA mutations. And of course, as we know, many diseases come from these cellular DNA mutations and the free radicals that are created in your body. Vitamin C is a precursor for adrenaline and dopamine synthesis, and both are very important hormones as well as neurotransmitters. And we've also learned that vitamin C has significant health benefits as an antimicrobial, antiviral, especially when in combination with niacin. It's also great for cardiovascular diseases, eye problems as mentioned, etc., etc. Very important gift from nature, inexpensive. You just have to pay attention to your nutrition. And with all that being said, I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation. If you did so, please like, share and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you don't miss out on the weekly content that appears here. I would also very much appreciate it if you would consider becoming a patron and supporting us directly. Link in the description box below. Alternatively, you can also support us by making a small donation via the PayPal link. That is also in the description box below. Your support keeps us going. Thank you so much for that. And until next time, stay healthy.